Story of Gisli the Outlaw, translated from the Icelandic by Sir George Webb Dasent. Chapter 1. The Thrall's Curse. At the end of the days of Harald Fairhair, there was a mighty lord in Norway, whose name was Thorkel Goldhelm, and he dwelt in Cernerdale in North Myron. He had a wedded wife, and 3 sons by her. The name of the eldest was Ari, the second was called Gisli, and the third Thorbjorn. They were all young men of promise. There was a man too named Izzy, who ruled over the Fjardar folk. His daughter's name was Ingebjorga, and she was the fairest of women. Ari, Thorkel's son, asked her to wife, and she was wedded to him. He got a great dower with her, and amongst the rest that she brought with her from her home was a man named Kol. He was of high degree, but he had been taken captive in war, and was called a thrall. So he came with Ingebjorga to Cernerdale. Thorkel gave over to his son Ari a rich farm up in the dale, and there he set up his abode, and was looked on as a most rising man. But now our story goes on to tell of a man named Bjorn, nicknamed Bjorn the Black. He was a bearsark, and much given to duels. 12 men went at his heel, and besides he was skilled in the black art, and no steel could touch his skin. No wonder he was unbeloved by the people, for he turned aside as he listed into the houses of men, and took away their wives and daughters, and kept them with him as long as he liked. All raised an outcry when he came, and all were fain when he went away. Well, as soon as this Bjorn heard that Ari had brought home a fair wife with a rich dower, he thought he would have a finger in that pie. So he turned his steps thither with his crew, and reached the house at eventide. As soon as Ari and Bjorn met, Bjorn told him that he wanted to play the master in that house, and that Ingebjorga, the housewife, should be at his beck and call whenever he chose. As for Ari, he said he might please himself, go away or stay, so he let Bjorn have his will. But Ari said he would not go away, nor would he let him play the master there. Very well, says Bjorn, thou shalt have another choice. I will challenge thee to a fight on the island, if thou darest, 3 days from this, and then we will try whose Ingebjorga shall be, and he too shall take all the others' goods who wins the day. Now mind, I will neither ransom myself with money, nor will I suffer anyone else to ransom himself. One shall conquer, and the other die. Ari said he was willing enough to fight, so the bearsarks went their way and busked them to battle. To make a long story short, they met on the island, and the end of their struggle was that Ari fell, but the bearsark was not wounded, for no steel would touch him. Now Bjorn thought he had won wife and land and goods, and he gave out that he meant to go at even to Ari's house to claim his own. Then Gisli, Ari's brother, answered and said, "It will soon be all over with me and mine if this disgrace comes to pass, that this ruffian tramples us underfoot. But this shall never be, for I will challenge thee at once to battle tomorrow morning. I would far rather fall on the island than bear this shame." "Well and good," says Bjorn, "thou and thy kith and kin shall all fall one after the other, if ye dare to fight with me." After that they parted, and Gisli went home to the house that Ari had owned. Now the tidings were told of what had happened on the island, and of Ari's death, and all thought that a great blow to the house. But Gisli goes to Ingebjorga, and tells her of Ari's fall, and how he had challenged Bjorn to the island, and how they were to fight the very next morning. "That is a bootless undertaking," said Ingebjorga, "and I fear it will not turn out well for thee, unless thou hast other help to lean on." "Ah," said Gisli, "then I beg that thou and all else who are likeliest to yield help will do their best that victory may seem more hopeful than it now looks." "Know this," says Ingebjorga, "that I was not so very fond of Ari that I would not rather have had thee. There is a man," she said, "who, methinks, is likeliest to be able to help in this matter, so that it may be well with thee." "Who is that?" asks Gisli. "It is Kol, my foster father," was the answer. "For I ween he has a sword that is said to be better than most others, though he seems to set little store by it, for he calls it his chopper. But whoever wields that sword wins the day." So they sent for Kol, and he came to meet Gisli and Ingebjorga. "Hast thou ever a good sword?" asked Gisli. My sword is no great treasure, answers Coll, but yet there are many things in the churl's cot which are not in the king's grange. Wilt thou not lend me the sword for my duel with Bjorn? Said Gisli. Ah, said Coll, then will happen whatever happens with those things that are treasures. You will never wish to give it up. But for all that, I tell thee now that this sword will bite whatever its blow falls on, be it iron or aught else, nor can its edge be deadened by spells, for it was forged by the dwarfs, and its name is grey steel. And now, make up thy mind that I shall take it very ill if I do not get the sword back when I claim it. It were most unfair, says Gisli, that thou shouldst not get back the sword after I've had the use of it in my need. Now Gisli takes the sword, and the night glides away. Next morn, ere they went from home to the duel, Thorbjorn called out to Gisli his brother, and said, Which of us twain now shall fight with the bearsark today, and which of us shall slaughter the calf? My counsel, said Gisli, is that thou shalt slaughter the calf, while I and Bjorn try our strength. He did not choose the easiest task. So they set off to the island, and Gisli and Bjorn stood face to face on it. Then Gisli bade Bjorn strike the first blow. No one has ever made me that offer before, said Bjorn. Indeed, no one has ever challenged me before this day save thou. So Bjorn made a blow at Gisli, but Gisli threw his shield before him, and the sword hewed off from the shield all that it smote from below the handle. Then Gisli smote at Bjorn in his turn, and the stroke fell on the tail of the shield, and shore it right off, and then passed on and struck off his leg below the knee. One other stroke he dealt him, and took off his head. Then he and his men turned on Bjorn's followers, and some are slain, and some chased away into the woods. After that, Gisli goes home, and got good fame for this feat, and then he took the farm as his heritage after Ari his brother, and he got Ingiborg also to wife, for he would not let a good woman go out of the family. And time rolls on, but he did not give up the good sword, nor had Coll ever asked for it. One day they two met out of doors, and Gisli had grey steel in his hand, and Coll had an axe. Coll asked whether he thought the sword had stood him in good stead, and Gisli was full of its praises. Well now, said Coll, I should like to have it back, if thou thinkest it has done thee good service in thy need. Wilt thou sell it? says Gisli. No, says Coll. I will give thee thy freedom and goods, so that thou mayest fare whither thou wilt with other men. I will not sell it, says Coll. Then I will give thee thy freedom, and lease or give thee land, and besides I will give thee sheep and cattle and goods as much as thou needest. I will not sell it a whit more for that, says Coll. Indeed, says Gisli, thou art too wilful to cling to it thus. Put thine own price on it, any sum thou choosest in money, and be sure I will not stand at trifles if thou wilt come to terms in some way. Besides, I will give thee thy freedom and a becoming match if thou hast any liking for anyone. There is no use talking about it, says Coll. I will not sell it whatsoever thou offerest. But now it just comes to what I feared at first, when I said it was not sure whether thou wouldst be ready to give the sword up if thou knewest what virtue is in it. And I too, says Gisli, will say what will happen. Good will befall neither of us, for I have not the heart to give up the sword, and it shall never come into any other man's hand than mine if I may have my will. Then Coll lifts up his axe, while Gisli brandished grey steel, and each smote at the other. Coll's blow fell on Gisli's head so that it sank into the brain, but the sword fell on Coll's head, and did not bite, but still the blow was so stoutly dealt that the skull was shattered, and the sword broke asunder. Then Coll said, It had been better now that I had got back my sword when I asked for it, and yet this is but the beginning of the ill luck which it will bring on thy kith and kin. Thus both of them lost their lives. End of chapter 1.